Hey everyone, I'm Rob and welcome to the test drive. Today, I'm gonna show you exactly what it's like to drive a manual Porsche 911 Carrera. Let's go. Now before we get started and I put the GoPro on my head, I want to talk about a couple things with this car. So the 911 Carrera that I'm driving is obviously a convertible, or as Porsche would call it, a cabriolet. And this is actually the 997 generation. It's the previous generation to the one that's currently in production, and it's actually the 997.2. So what Porsche does when they do a mid-cycle refresh, they go from a 0.1 to a 0.2. 2009 was the mid-cycle refresh, and that's actually the car that I'm driving today is a 2009 model year 911 Carrera. Now I will be doing a full review of this car. However, in this video, I just want to show you exactly what it's like to drive it, and that full review will be coming in the very near future. I'm just running out of daylight today, so I wanted to at least get this video in to show you what it's like to drive it from a first-person point of view. Now, if you know anything about the 911, you know that the engine is actually mounted in the rear. There were two different engine options in the 997.2 generation. You had a 3.6 liter 6-cylinder. That's what's in the Carrera that I'm driving. And then there was also a 3.8 liter, also flat 6-cylinder that put out a little bit more power. Now the one that I'm driving puts out 345 horsepower and 288 pound-feet of torque. In today's world, 345 horsepower and especially 288 pound-feet of torque doesn't sound like a ton of power, and it really isn't. However, the power to weight ratio in this car is pretty good considering it only weighs 3,150 pounds. And it's a Porsche. So this one goes 0 to 60 in 4.7 seconds, which is pretty good. And I've actually seen people online who have gotten this car to 60 in 4.3 seconds. And that makes sense because Porsche and a lot of manufacturers typically do understate the 0 to 60 number. So it makes sense that this car can actually get a number like 4.3, and it is a very quick car. This 911 also has a top speed of 180 miles an hour. Now we might as well talk about the wheels on this 911 because, as you might imagine, these are not the wheels that originally came with the car. You see, the wheels that originally came with this car were 18-inch rims, and they were 235s up front, 265s in the rear. But that wasn't good enough. So this one has 245s in the front and 305s in the rear. I mean, when you look at the rear of this car and you look at how fat these tires are, it just looks amazing. I love that. That is an awesome modification for this generation of the Carrera, and I love that this one has it. And as I mentioned before, this Carrera is a manual, and 2009 was actually the first year that the PDK, the 7-speed dual clutch automatic that became to be such an amazing and such a loved transmission and such an upgrade from the 5-speed automatic that was previously offered prior to 2009. That was the first year that it was offered in the Carrera, and it kind of started to become a decision over time. Do you get a 6-speed manual in your 911, or do you get the 7-speed dual clutch PDK that is such an amazing transmission? Now, at the end of the day, I love driving a manual, and I think that this car with a manual is still the way to go. However, the PDK is such a nice transmission, and in terms of a daily driver, is probably the better option. But at the end of the day, for a car to have fun with, drive on windy back roads, and just really enjoy driving just for the pleasure of driving, I think that the 6-speed manual is still the way to go. Now, in typical Porsche fashion, of course, the ignition is on the left. Thought this was so weird the first time I drove a Porsche, but now I really liking it. It is a signature Porsche thing to have it on the left instead of the right. Now, you didn't really get to hear a cold start, obviously, because I've been driving this car, but I'm going to put the top up here so that we don't get a ton of wind noise when we're driving. So, controls are right here. Top down is the bottom one, top up is the top one. The wind deflector actually does a really good job, but still, with a camera and just how bad GoPro audio is, I think we kind of need to have it up, unfortunately. This is such a fun car to drive with the top down, though. And I'll show you both when I actually do a full review of this car. Pretty awesome where the bite point is of this clutch. I mean, you barely need to get rolling and then you're fine. You don't need the clutch at all. I mean, 2-3 miles an hour, you can just use the gas. Now, the first thing I noticed in this 911 is that the pedals are actually very close together. So for example, my Z4 BMW, again, not even a car that you can come close to comparing to this. Fun fact, the Z4 actually was designed to compete with the Boxster originally, and then it kind of ended up not competing as well as they thought, and they kind of changed it, went after Mercedes and that type of thing. But either way, the pedals in that car are spaced out a little bit more. The clutch and the brake are very close here, and I mean, you still have enough space, obviously, but it's just a little bit different than a lot of other manual cars, at least that I've driven. Now, I love the feeling of this gear lever. You have this ball shape at the top and just really feels nice. The shifts in this car are so precise. It is truly amazing just how exact everything is. Now, in terms of the steering, it's heavy, but it's not that heavy, but it feels really good. This car has so much power, even in higher gears at lower speeds. I mean, it's just amazing how much power you have even at a low RPM. The power delivery really comes on very easily and very quickly in this car. And it sounds so good. I will get some clips when I do the actual review where you can see what this sounds like from the outside, but this car sounds good. And it's a 6-cylinder, it's not a V8, but it sounds really good. I also love the layout of the instrument cluster here. I love that you have this big tachometer in the center, you have a smaller speedometer, obviously it goes up to 200 miles an hour because this car technically can do 180. And then you have all the other gauges that kind of progressively get smaller as it goes to the outside. So I really like that. Very simple steering wheel here though, no buttons at all on it. I mean, this car, even though you do have this touch screen here and you know it has some technology features, it really is just about the drive. And as you might imagine, it is a harsher ride because this is a sports car and it is a very stiff suspension. But it's not bad, and when you take it on roads like this, obviously this is where it's meant to be enjoyed. If you're driving on highways and you got construction and stuff like that, I mean, you know, roads like that, yeah, you're gonna feel a lot of the imperfections in the road, and you know, it's not necessarily as fun in those environments, but here, this is where it's meant to be. This thing handles so well. I mean, you got some pretty fat tires, 305s in the rear, so it's supposed to handle well. every time you switch gears, it's so precise. It's also really easy to find the bite point in this clutch, even if you're not used to this car. And it's just amazing how smoothly it drives even in first gear. It's not jerky at all. This thing really sounds good. And I mean, you can do pulls in fourth gear and have so much fun with it. I mean, you don't have to downshift. You don't have to really push it to have fun with it, which is awesome. I mean, handling is effortless for this car. I'm gonna be really sad getting back into my Z4 after this. The Z4 is really fun to drive. I mean, it's a manual, it's great, but this is really fun. And it is such a well-made vehicle, and this manual is so precise, and I love that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, GoPro mark, even more severe than usual. And I do have a full review of this car coming very, very soon, hopefully within the next week or so. Just need to get some nice weather. It's gonna be rainy the next couple of days and not gonna be very fun. But I will be having a full review of this car on the channel very, very soon, as well as a bunch of other videos of it. So I'm very excited about that. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button to join the fun. You'll be entered in all the giveaways that we're doing, and you'll get notified of new videos when they come out. Again, I'm trying to post videos as often as I can, and now that the weather is awesome in New York, I really can film a lot of videos. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button, and I'll talk to you again very, very soon. Thanks for taking this test drive with me. Bye-bye. Now watch me struggle putting this car cover on. All right, we did it.